Welcome to the Pompey Politics Podcast.
I'm Ian Tiny Morris.
And I'm Simon Sainsbury.
And welcome to the latest episode of the Pompey Politics Podcast. If you're joining us live, then it's the last Sunday of November before we hit December, and it's the run into Christmas. And as it's the run into Christmas, we thought we'd mix things up and go local. And this evening's episode is an homage to the Pompey producers, Simon. We have guests.
We do indeed. We have guests. We are joined by three, not one, not two, but three guests this evening. So we're joined by Gary Fyles from Think Bigger Limited. We're joined by David. I'm just going to get his surname wrong now, which is just going to be embarrassing. David Mugridge from Yarty Cordials, and we're also joined by Councillor Ben Swann from who hails from Cllr Ward, to give us a bit of a council view on things. So good evening and welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
And sorry for completely stuffing up your name there, David.
Don't worry.
So welcome. Thanks very much. We've been keen for quite a while to hear from some producers within the city and understand kind of what challenges they're facing at the moment. So should we get straight into our questions, Ian?
Let's do it.
Okay. So our first question, we're going to go in order to each of you and ask you to just introduce yourselves a bit about the business that you're involved in, and in Ben's case, obviously your involvement. But if we can go to David first, love to hear about yourself and your background.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name's David Mugridge. I'm a co-founder of Yarty Cordials. The thing is, we don't make many cordials nowadays. It's mainly vinegars. I'm ex-construction. The last job I did on the island was 30 odd years ago when I got called in to finish off the sailing centre on Eastern Road. I managed to get out of construction due to getting vertigo, which doesn't help when you've got to climb up tower cranes, etc. I started it with my wife, Jane, who's over in the corner there. She unfortunately has MS.
Hi, Jane.
And had to give up working as a theatre sister. But Jane is a very, very, very good cook and is often seen on stage at shows taking on professional chefs and beating them hands down. We're very lucky. We're very high-end premium. So we haven't really been affected as such with what's happening out there. Our customers include ranging from King Charles to Heston, Blumenthal. We supply the Pig Group. We export to Germany, Sweden, Norway, Poland, Italy, Denmark and Finland, and the United States. And none of this would be absolutely possible without the help of Penny, our MP that we had. She helped us many years ago and pointed us in the right direction with the trade and industry, or DIT, or whatever they're called this week, to help us export. Now, when we had the COVID, everything came to a grinding halt. We used to supply British Airways and companies like that. Luckily, we had our website, which kept us going. And as I say, Penny's help, we found out about all the grants that we could get from the council. So, hats off to Portsmouth City Council. That's about it, isn't it? Thank you.
No, that's fine. Well, we can get into some more of those details in a bit in some of our later questions. So, thank you very much for that, Dave. And David and Gary. The same to you, please.
I'll try and not be too long-winded about this. I'm the founder of Thinking Bigger. Before that, I was a teacher for 22 years. I taught all in East London for many of those years, and then taught at the best school in Vietnam. I was lucky enough to get brought over there to teach at BIS Ho Chi Minh City. And while there, we had amazing training. A lot of that was metacognition and neuroscience. And I was teaching the children about neuroscience and metacognition. And at the same time, I was asked if I would illustrate a book. I turned down the opportunity, and the children said, "You're not allowed to do that. You tell us that we've got to be able to do anything we're challenged with." And so I went off, illustrated that book. Then they said, "Now you've got to be an author." And so when I came back from Vietnam, Immediately I started working on my first book. I got that published in 2021, around about the same time I moved to Portsmouth. And it kind of just went from there. I ended up leaving teaching. That's a story in itself, but I won't go into it. But I came out of teaching and I decided I wouldn't publish my second book through another publishers. I'd self-publish. And so when I did that and I was being asked to present in schools, I started thinking bigger, just literally as a vehicle for that. And it kind of developed into what it is now. People started asking me pretty much straight away to start publishing their books. And I, again, at first I was saying, you know, I'm just an author, but you can't really say that when you created a company called Thinking Bigger and you're writing books about aspirational thinking. So now we publish other authors, and we've got about 30 authors and illustrators we're working with, and a publishing plan that takes us into 2026. It's growing. So it all kind of came about because people were asking me, you know, they needed a service. People wanted work. People wanted to be provided something, and I guess I had something that people in Portsmouth needed. So there's a ing on the end of think bigger. So thinking bigger. If anyone wants to find out about me,
I'll sort that out.
No,
in a
you're all
second.
good. People get it. You're all good.
Okay.
But you know, it's I've got to say it because it's thinking bigger.
Yeah. Well, I shall certainly think bigger by adding the ing.
You're all good.
Thank you.
No worries.
Ben, if you could just introduce yourself, please, and help us understand how your involvement with the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Councillor Ben Swann. I represent Copner and Anchorage Park wards on Portsmouth City Council. My link to this subject really goes back to my parents. Both my mother and father are from rural backgrounds. My mother from rural Hampshire, my father from rural Derbyshire. So I've always grown up with a passion and massive respect for local produce, British produce, small businesses, and the importance of actually supporting all of those, because otherwise, you know, we lose such an important part of our identity, really. More recently, I had a motion passed unanimously at full council regarding supporting local producers in the city. And basically what the point of this was recognising that there's a symbiotic link between rural producers and small businesses in the city and the hospitality industry, and that there was or there still is rather an interest in from some areas in the plant-based treaty, as it's called, and really what I wanted to do was not tie the hands of the council by saying we're going to do away with meat and everything like that, which of course would have a knock-on effect. Talking about an example that we set to so many local businesses and, as I said, the hospitality industry and everything. And I really wanted to fly the flag for those small businesses, not just in my own ward, in the city, but also in the local region as well. So that's why I went ahead with that.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben. So if we can just dig a little deeper in terms of, you know, the challenges facing business at the moment. So Gary, can I start with you in terms of, you know, what's the biggest challenge that's facing Yarty Cordials at the moment?
Sorry, facing thinking bigger.
Oh, sorry, Gary. I've mixed the two of you up. It's easy done. So clarity, yeah. No. So in terms of thinking bigger, I mean, I don't want to make assumptions about the book industry. So, you know, where do you see your challenges at the moment?
I mean, your assumptions are probably correct. Selling books is not an easy thing. My main way of selling books is through school visits. I attend markets. I attend. I have books in shops. I have books online, but really, my main job is and my main money is made from doing school visits, going into schools, talking to children. That's normally how anyone sells books. People connect with the author, and people then buy the book. And so For me, I mean, my company works in many ways. So a lot of my work now is actually business to business. I work with other businesses that are wanting to support books that are produced by other people. I'm connecting with authors that want their books published. That's a fee, that's a service. And our marketing that we then market. So the business is constantly having to evolve at the moment. And with our website being relaunched next month, we'll be producing video content for schools. I mean, my challenge is just keeping up with the growth, but it's as someone who's got a background in education and not business, for me, my challenges are mainly about myself and having to learn as I go and get that support. I mean, but finding support isn't easy. It's you know, I know there is support out there, but actually being connected to it isn't always something that happens. Going through the council, you know, you're not always. I found I wasn't always signposted towards the place I needed to be. And it's a very lonely job in a sense. Because it's all, you know, for me, again, coming from outside of the city, I had to network. I've been working extremely hard networking and meeting people. But that in itself is a challenge, you know, to meet people that engage and want to support. One of the words that people mention is clicky, and it is a clicky city. Sometimes it feels, you know, if you've got a network that's been there and established for 20 years because you knew these people, then that's great. If you're coming from outside, then it can be a great challenge. And yeah, it's just something that we have to work with. But as I said, I can only look at myself and look to improve what I do and look to build that way.
No, that's great, and I think we'll pick up on some of those topics later in the question. So David from Yarty Cordials, what's the biggest challenge you're facing at the moment? It sounds like you're in quite a positive space, but I guess with all businesses there are challenges out there.
Our biggest problem has been getting glass. Unfortunately, some bright spark about 7 or 8 years ago decided that plastic is not the future for bottles, so everyone should go for glass. We only use glass because it's very high premium, so suddenly we could not get glass. What with COVID as well, we have rebranded about 3 or 4 times, which as a small company costs an arm and a leg for labels, etc., etc. Only this week we found another bottle which we think's from Egypt, but one of our suppliers has got the supply of it. It suddenly came to the point where we were having to pay up front for all our glass, which completely crippled our cash flow. And we were actually getting hit for a £500 charge per pallet coming into the UK. People don't realise this. Our other problem's been the business rates are seeming extortionate in Portsmouth. There's no help anymore. They just suddenly put them up overnight without any notice. It seems to be that the council are more interested in social media, giving money to social media, not actually producing anything that people want. That's about it, really. But it's just been the glass, which has completely stifled our growth.
So I guess just picking up from that, so a lot of your, and to be fair, it's piqued my interest because I spent many years as a supply chain anorak, so forgive me if I indulge myself. So I guess you're having to source all of that from outside of the UK in terms of your glass supply?
In the UK, our cordial bottles, we get a 250 milliliter and a 750 milliliter. They're British. They are semi-okay, but sometimes there's like a 6-month backlog on that because there's not many manufacturers. But the other stuff, 30% uplift they've charged on the bottles in the last couple of weeks. So our big problem has been dealing with the French and the Italians. That the French just stopped the bottles we were using overnight, up yours basically, and the Italians say they've made it and they haven't. So it doesn't help us as a small company. They've been basically making gin bottles for everybody. The gin market has crashed in the last quarter by 42%, which is no surprise because wherever you go, you see gin companies. And that's one of our things we do. We actually make a lot of stuff for gin companies flavourings, etc., that we don't make, if you see what I mean.
And I guess the other thing in glass manufacture is an awful lot of power needed to make glass, isn't there? So I'm guessing your costs probably haven't gone the way you might hope over the last few
Jen will
years.
just tell you about that.
Well, we get our glass in Wednesday and they've gone up £1.75 a bottle plus VAT plus £500 per carriage. And you can't pass that on to your end user. So now we've got these little bottles. I've done a trial with all our customers and they absolutely love them. And the best bit is we don't have to put an increase in price this year because we've got them at such a good price. So everybody's happy. They're not as fancy, but the trade-off is there's no uplift in cost. So all the shops don't have to put an uplifting cost to their clients, so people are buying more.
We didn't want to go down the shrinkflation route, which everybody else seems to be doing. We could find a bottle that was very similar to our 250, but at 200 ml. And we're an honest family company, and we just could not look at people in the eye and say, I'm sorry, this is the same price, if not more, because the bottles were even more expensive than the other ones. So we decided just to completely grab the nettle and we changed it.
Yep, and there's still 250 ml, so everybody's happy. Our Swedish distributor is over the moon because everybody had our old bottles. Similar, but not our little bottles that we've got now. And she says it's such a difference. She absolutely loves them. She's putting a big order in before Christmas, so as our German distributor. If you're honest with people, they do understand. Waitrose, Letford, we supply, they're happy. And like I said, I've done a trial of all the bottles. We were at Dartmouth Food Festival a couple of weeks ago, and all the clients that buy from us, B2C, love them. They can put them in cupboards where the other ones were too tall. So hopefully we've rectified it. So we've got about 8 pallets in at the moment. So that's taken a great weight off our year, really.
We can actually produce because we've had to turn down work. I noticed on the questions things you also said about the national government. Since they came in, we can see work drying up left, right, and centre. We're quite lucky because we're very, very high end. But there's a lot of our friends that are just desperate to get to Christmas, let alone anything else.
We'll definitely pick up on that in the future questions. So I thank you for both of those answers. No, it seems that that need to be sort of agile and continually evolving is very evident in both businesses. If I can just turn to Ben, you touched on your passion for local producers there, Ben, and I know what are you hearing from local producers and the people that you're talking to as a councillor in terms of the challenges that they're facing?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would have to completely agree with Gary and with Dave and Jane about that there are groups and collectives within the city, and it is very, very cliquey. And quite honestly, if the local authority is going to help small producers, small businesses, the door does need to be open for everybody. A rising tide lifts all boats. And I can't really say it any better than that. What I'm hearing from local businesses is much the same thing, which is, they're working hard and, they want to be able to be producing and selling, but it's becoming more and more limited, the opportunities for them to do so. And their production costs are rising. So they're having to make tough decisions personally. They're having to make tough decisions with their businesses. And the horizon looks very bleak at the moment. There doesn't seem to be a lot of optimism out there. And I think really, I think there is some serious doubt about exactly what central government are going to be doing. I know we're going to be touching on that.
You've almost done my work for me, Ben, in terms of segueing into the next question.
but there is a lot of worry out there. People, we should be a society that really pushes that hope that people have to want to get on, and they want to, they want to take their ideas and they want to run with it, and they want to make a living for themselves. And it just seems that government seems to be a wall. And and that doesn't matter what colour they are. I think we've seen in the past couple of decades, governments of all stripes have had ideas that have had detrimental effects on local producers and local business. And I definitely stand with local producers and businesses in my serious concern about where we go from here.
Well, as I say, that is a perfect segue. I shall throw to Simon to ask the next question.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So, yeah, so our next question is, and as you say, that's definitely been teed up. Thank you very much, David and Ben. So what are national and local governments getting right, and what are they getting wrong, and what can they do to help over the short, medium term? As that's a more politically led question, perhaps I can just ask you to, if there's anything to expand on that, Ben, if you can come to that, and then I'll come back to Gary and David, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think locally there is a really strong will to really kind of get down in the weeds with local businesses and do as much as we can to help. I think there are hurdles because I think there's a lot of silo thinking in certain areas, but ultimately what we do locally is going to be affected by what's happening on the national stage. And I think, as we've seen, certainly even in the past week and the past few months of decision making from this new government, it's toss a coin as to what kind of decisions are going to be coming out next. I mean, this seeming obsession that the current government have with hurting the farming industry, rural communities, particularly smaller farms, and producing families, it can only go one way. It is only going to have a detrimental effect on small businesses, particularly coming into urban areas like Portsmouth, with hospitality industry, with producers and other businesses, because when they're struggling and when they've got to make tough decisions, the costs are passed on. So therefore, it affects other small businesses because they then need to cut their cloth accordingly. And ultimately, you see a lack of diversity and availability. You see small businesses going to the wall because they just cannot exist in the economic climate. And I think really central government need to have a really good hard look at themselves and say, right, okay, we know that we've got a decision coming up at the end of December as exactly what money local government is going to have. It will be interesting to see whether there's an increase from what the last government was doing. I'm not holding my breath, but we will see. I'm not making any judgments. But they need to get their act together, and they need to realise that there is some serious aspiration, and there are countless small businesses who would just want, who they want to roar and they want to get their product out there, and they're being held back by policies that are just nonsensical. And I really, my heart breaks for so many of the small businesses in the local area. It really does. Yeah.
And that's brilliant. Let me hear from Gary and David. Gary, what's your view on what national and local, what they're getting right, what's wrong, and what they could be doing to help?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I mean, I think there's a lot of great stuff that's happening locally. Local councils do an awful lot for local business, and I don't want it. I think that's got to be clear. I've had support. I've had great support in terms of coaching, in terms of being put in touch with the right people. Next, in a couple of weeks' time, I've got a stall that I'm running for free that's part of local business with the council. That's something amazing. That's a great opportunity. It's a miracle that I found out about the opportunity. It was sent to me, a friend, luckily, again, networking, someone that I met earlier this year, sent me a link to that one. I applied and I got that one, but it's a lack of joined up thinking for me, really, and that comes from national, not necessarily local, because as I said, I left teaching and I had to pivot. That's how business started. I started it from nothing, literally nothing. And I was on universal credit when I started the business, but the lack of joined up thinking there was no one was actually getting me in touch with the support I needed either. And even then I was put onto a business development plan, again, it wasn't necessarily connecting me with the places that I needed to. And again, I understand, because, you know, the fact that this business has lasted as long as it is because of my own hard work. There are a lot of people who would have given up beforehand that would not have got this far. But again, this is why almost this business is where it is. This business is about growth mindset. It's about telling people to go out and just try. And I've heard about people who've started businesses after reading my books. The first one, Just Try, is about overcoming the fear of failure. The second one, Think Big, Play Room, Aim High, is about being aspirational. And that's the message that we need to be giving to lots of people, again, because the message that we've got from teaching, I can tell you for sure that schools in the UK do not have, or certainly state schools in the UK do not have growth mindset. They're not developing the entrepreneurs for tomorrow. And we don't have a society that really nurtures an entrepreneurial mindset. We don't encourage it. We encourage people to be workers. We need workers. We need people. You know, every business will need people who are happy to work for a wage and want to do that at that time. But the idea of actually nurturing entrepreneurship and nurturing that growth mindset, it's just not something we see. And I said, I don't think it's fair to point the finger necessarily at local council, local government. I don't think it's almost fair to point at national either. I mean, it is something. It's just a problem. It's a problem we've got to overcome, and it does. For me, it takes a lot more of joined up thinking and that support being given to the right areas. We see a lot of business support going to people who don't need business support. You know, as I said, I started this with nothing. And people who have got my background are not normally the people who would start a business like mine. And there are lots more people like, I'm not special, you know, but I took the plunge and I went for it. But if more people knew the support was out there, you'd see more things like this, and you'd see good people doing good things for others. And that's where it all comes from.
Fantastic. Well, let me put the same question to David and Jane. What are your thoughts about what's right and what's not right? What could be done?
Well,
I heard you agreeing about about encouraging entrepreneurship and the opportunities to the people that actually need them, or the help to the people that actually need them.
We get lots of people get hold of us to ask how you do certain things and where you go to get advice on certain things, because we've been doing this 16 years, which I'm always happy to do. I'm writing a cookbook at the moment for the Royal Marines charity down in Livingston. And I'm starting a YouTube channel, which is a bit scary, but there you go. I think you've got to support people. I've been on courses which haven't been a lot of use to what we do. It sort of fits a whole area, but it's not targeted. I think that's one of the big areas that should be looked at, really. Portsmouth City Council have been very good to us. Got loads of advice. National, we wanted to take more staff on, but we're very loath to do that now because there's no trial period. And do we go down the route of buying more machinery because it's there on a Monday morning? It's all those things to look at.
Yeah, Rachel from accounts, look, by holding back on the budget, and I'm sure everybody realises that it's completely stifled the economy in the UK at the moment. I agree 100% with what Gary said. Is sort of hit it on the nose on every single account there. We started off in Taunton with that. I think we had 100 quid. We managed to get some bottles. I was still sort of working, but I knew I was coming off of sick leave, so we started with 100 quid's worth of bottles at Taunton Farmers Market. Started from there, then used to go around to other markets and found out all the local farm shops, supplied them. And then, unfortunately, my mother was unwell, so we moved back to Hampshire. We moved to Portsmouth, and the support we have had has been really good, I must admit. Like Ben has been a good supporter for us, along with all the other guys down in the council. Unfortunately, some of the people that are in the council have never worked in the real world, so it's really hard to actually explain what you need. the will's there, but unfortunately, they don't quite know how to do it, and they come up with these real harebrained schemes sometimes, and you have to stand back and say, look, it doesn't work like that in the real world. Agree?
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. I guess the other the area we just want to explore now is that that world of internet shopping and the massive multinationals like Amazon. And I guess the key question there is it the great leveler that means your products and your services can get out there, or is it a hindrance? And can I ask that first to David?
It's a total hindrance. I don't think people realise quite how bad Amazon are. They've got the market, which is brilliant. They've come out of nowhere. If you actually see the contract that you've got to go to, it's about 2.5 inches thick of A4 paper. They will absolutely, they make Tesco's look like saints. We'd love to do it like that. Our big problem is it's all handmade. We don't keep any stock. So we say that on our website, and we have got very, very loyal customers. It's like us going to Tesco's. We don't supply any major supermarket in the UK. That was rule one. We supply Waitrose's farm shop up at Letford, which is where John Lewis used to live, with the deal that it doesn't go in the supermarket chain, which then keeps all our little local shops happy. We like to offer something completely different from the mainstream, you know, and some people seem to think that we are Amazon, and if you order it, it's going to be there in the morning. Unfortunately, everything is made in small batches. It's totally handcrafted. So honestly, I'd love to have stock in our place, but we haven't. We're in the process of opening a little shop at the front row so that people locally can pick it up. We have got a few shops in Pompey. But let's say 90% of this goes abroad because they actually appreciate the British.
It's
Brilliant.
18-month payment terms on Amazon.
Sorry, Jane, you're a bit quiet. Did I hear that as 18 months
that's
payment
Tesco's,
term?
and Amazon are about 6 months. And what they do is that you'll get your product in there, and then they'll they're just like supermarkets. I don't think anybody realizes that when you go into Waitrose, Tesco's, any of them, and you get buy one get one free, it's the producer that has to do it. It's not good old Tesco's or Waitrose, it's us, and that's why we won't do it.
And if you become one of the top sellers, they literally press you so much you probably lose your business because they buy you out. We've had loads of friends absolutely gone to the wall because of them.
So we'll come on to the high street in a minute. So yeah, I sense there might be a bit more to come in that
very
one.
Lucky.
So
We're totally. I can't believe I even got on this tonight to speak to you. We're totally inept when it comes to IT, etc. Yeah. But we did have a very small website when COVID hit, and that basically saved our bacon. What with Penny's help, and say our little unit's down in Southsea, which is not her area, but with her help, she put us in touch with the local council, who told us with all this, that, and the other money. We told everybody else in our little industrial estate, and it saved us all.
Brilliant. Well, we'll come on to the high street in a minute because I sense there's more to come than that. I guess in the world of online book sales, Gary, Amazon, where do you stand on the whole world of online book sales?
I might surprise people actually with my answer. I think it's a double-edged sword. It really is a double-edged sword. My business would not have started if it weren't for Amazon. When I first published when I published my second book and self-published it, initially I went through KDP, which is a brilliant opportunity for authors, self-publishing authors, to publish their work for free without any overhead costs. You put it on there for print on demand. Yes, Amazon take an enormous cut from whatever is sold through there. I get nothing from Amazon. However, what it did do is it put my books out there. And by putting the books out there, it then started everything else. Now, I'm actually at a point where I might be taking the books off Amazon because they don't do anything for me now. I now have printers that I use. The books are printed at a much higher quality than Amazon can produce. And so there's not much interest in them. It is a double-edged sword, though, as I said, because of they were initially being printed by Amazon. I couldn't get the books into bookshops. They didn't want the books if they said printed by Amazon. Again, completely understand that, because the bookshops were put at risk by Amazon. Amazon are literally out there putting all these bookshops at risk, and I know that local bookshops are asked if they can match the same prices as Amazon. They can't, because Amazon a lot of the time are selling books at a loss. And so it is a challenge. That said, again, for me, surprisingly, Amazon sales are not something that I get a lot of, because our books are picture books and mainly for children. You won't find many parents do a lot of browsing for their children's reading habits. Unfortunately, but parents will quite often just buy the first children's book they see, and they'll go into Waterstones, they'll grab the latest Julia Donaldson or whoever else has produced a book recently. They'll grab whatever's there. And a lot of parents don't put the thought into it. So again, as I said, my best sales are when I go into schools. Then almost every child wants a copy when I go in. But online, it's just a very slow. If people want to find them, they can find them. But otherwise, it doesn't harm me one way or another, really.
No, it's brilliant to get two different perspectives. And I'm going to throw Simon for the next question, which Ben will ask you to come in and lead on.
Okay, so High Street, evolving format, or is it something that its time has come?
I truly hope that its time hasn't come. I look at the smaller areas of Portsmouth. I mean, I know Commercial Road is a particular concern for pretty much every resident in Portsmouth, with how it's gone downhill in the last decade, really. But what I really worry about are things like the independent small shops like you have on Copner Road, Bransbury Park on the London Road in Hilsey, areas in Southsea that have a lot of small businesses and things, because as you say, the trend is for people to buy online, and obviously COVID had a massive effect on that, because it changed people's buying habits, and people realized how easy it was just to order something and have it arrive the next day. However, there's a saying, isn't there, that Britain are a nation of shopkeepers, and I think that's something that we should be really proud of, and I think not enough is done to really shout that from the rooftops and say, come on, go to your local shops, go to your local businesses, because there's things that you're never going to be able to get online, and all of that is just going to disappear, and we're going to be left with mass-produced nonsense that you can buy online, and things without a soul, things that I quite like. There's a social media post that kind of circles around every so often about, it's a chalkboard that is outside a small shop saying, when you're buying from a local shop, you're paying for a son's football boots, or a girl, a daughter's dance lessons, things like that. And I think there's no getting away from the fact that there is a benefit to online shopping. You can't argue against that. However, I think there's an attitude that we've kind of embraced, as I said, more since COVID. I don't know if I use the word laziness, but I think it's convenience, the need for convenience, as opposed to something, being able to get something tangible at the time, something perhaps unique. And I think it's a dangerous path. I think it's a very worrying path.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Can I ask about your views on the high street and its future? If I can go to Gary first, that's all right.
Yeah, I think again, Ben said a lot of great things there that I agree with. I think it would be a shame if we lost the high streets. I think that we can fight back. I think they're not a completely outdated institution, but I think a lot has to be done. There is great things happening. So part of one of the things that I do is get involved with the Love Southsea markets that run on Palmerston Road. They're fantastic. They bring people along. They get people down to the high street, and I think that markets like that are great. We need to do something about some of those empty spaces. There's so many empty shops. There's so many places, and again, it's really hard as a small business to be able to afford something like that because the overheads of running a shop. So is there a way of doing something differently? And we have to think bigger, and we have to think differently. We have to make a way of making it happen by pivoting, by making it something that works differently, by using the shop spaces differently, perhaps I'm not saying I've got the answers all, but for me, I think we need to be utilising the high street shops. We need to be getting people back down there because, as Ben said, it's far too convenient to shop online. Whilst I said, Amazon were something that supported my business dying, it's not something I support necessarily. I want people to get down to shops and buy in shops, and I think it'd be great for us to do it. I think it's part of the community we've lost. I think it's part of our national identity, as you said. We're a nation of shopkeepers, and also again, it's that local business is so important. And what Ben said is, when I intend to bring money into Portsmouth and to share it with people in Portsmouth. I've said that since I started. I'm not trying to make my money out of people in Portsmouth because I'm not going to sell all my books to people here. That's not how it's going to happen. I want it to be something that is already international. I sell books in America. I sell books around the world, and I bring that money into Portsmouth, and I'm there giving work to people in Portsmouth who then will go and spend it in Portsmouth. And it's that money spent with a small business will cycle round and be used several times, and that's where the economy can grow. If all of our money goes straight off to an offshore bank account of someone who owns an online store, not mentioning any names, then that money is not going to get used. It just goes into investment, and it's not reinvested into the people in the same way that a small business will reinvest that money with small people. So absolutely 100% with Ben there.
Okay, thanks. David and Jane, your thoughts on the high street?
I agree 100% with Gary and Ben. I'm old enough to remember that in the 70s and 80s that all the big boys moved out the high street and went to places like Ocean Park, etc., etc. You can't get anywhere near the Pompey Centre on a Sunday because everybody's in there in Aldi, etc., etc. Unfortunately, if you go down, I had to have my eyes tested a couple of months ago down a Commercial Road, and you speak to the guys that work in the eye specialist opticians, and they said they don't go out at lunchtime because it's just too scary. We've got to try and bring it back. But the thing is, I can go to any high street in this country and it's the same shops. You go somewhere like Chichester and you've got a bit of variety, or Winchester, but if you go to like Southampton or Fareham or wherever, it's just the same shops.
Yeah, people are going to have shops for local producers, books, us, and lots of other things. You're going to have a multi-use space so it brings people in. I don't know, have a cafe, and they can look at the books or look at use stuff on the dinners. We do a lot of that around the country. Supply a lot of cafes where they've got lots of other areas, not just a cafe. And also on our website, we've got where do you buy it from, or where did you find us? So it says what shops they've been to, or what shows we've done. So you've got some idea. It's not just online.
I've got to say, we had an email on Thursday or Friday from the council, and they're actually going to open up a shop down in Gunwharf.
Yeah.
Lulu's doing it, but from January to March, which is probably the worst time of the year for retail, but at least they're having a go. I know they're having to pay an arm and a leg. We do shows around the country. We do some trade shows. And I have noticed that when it comes to food, we get paid at least 3 times the rate of anybody else if it's a director of a boat fitting company. And they pay a third of what we do for the same footage of our stand. So it does seem very biased towards food producers. That's it, isn't it?
So thank you. No, it's it's an interesting insight, and it is fascinating to see that you all believe that the high street has a future. So I guess that brings us to our last question then, which is, as a local producer or supplier, what can our listeners or people more generally do to support the work that you're doing? And can I ask that first, David and Jane?
We're actually very lucky. We've got quite a big client base in Portsmouth. They email us, say, can I have? And they come to our unit or we drop it in at PHC next door. It's actually supporting us, and we support them. They come and see us at shows.
We've got Astles,
Yeah,
Furbies, and Southsea Deli on the island.
yeah,
And if they haven't got it, they'll get it for you.
yeah.
We'd much rather support the little companies.
And we do one box to them, not a pallet. You know, it's
Yeah, there's no minimum order to local shops.
Yeah, do a lot of gifting for people in Portsmouth. We do gift boxes, and they come and get a load for Christmas. We do FIFA. Somebody from Waterlooville works for FIFA, and she bought some for a load of them when she went back to Switzerland, and now she's ordered so much to take back as gift boxes. You don't know who you're talking to, who's buying your stuff, and I love it when you talk to people. It's really quite funny where it goes.
We supplied people like Johnny Depp. We were lucky enough to meet him many years ago in
we had
we've had
Coldplay
in our unit. We've had all
course.
sorts. I didn't know who the hell they were, but anyway. Yeah, we're very lucky.
Exactly
We work on
that.
word of mouth.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we haven't really got any competition because all the rest of the stuff's mass produced. We also offer a service at no extra charge where hotels, etc., will get a special cordial which Jane creates for them. And that makes it more fun because suddenly somebody says, can you make? And last year we made a marshmallow cordial for Heston Blumenthal. So for Halloween. So Jane thought, well, how am I going to make it? How would Heston do it? So she made marshmallows from scratch. We froze them and then we blended them down to powder. And then we added them to the water and made a cordial. And it was a very big success. But that's the sort of special things we do. And it makes it much more interesting. And like I say, Jane is now doing a book for the Royal Marines. Actually, she's doing 5 books. But the first book's for the Royal Marines. And we've got lots of celebrity chefs and celebrities that are putting recipes into it. So if anybody out there's got a recipe and ideally a funny story that can go with it. Yeah, clean, please.
Because I've got many clean stories.
Yes. We're going to put that in the book. Yes. So everything's quite exciting on our end. Let's say we've now been told we've got to do more social media, and we are opening up a proper, what do they call it, YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Jane did a course which she found out through Pompey Council, and we've actually got an ex-BBC cameraman who's going to do all the work, so it's going to be quite professional. So watch this space in the next couple of weeks.
Marvelous. Diving headfirst into the digital age, and as one of the few competent blind barbecue chefs, I might offer you something up to go in your
Please
pub.
do. And we'll
No.
send you some bee to go with it. We make a thing called bee, which is black garlic. It's an English take on balsamic. And you can use it wherever you use balsamic, soy sauce, or Worcester sauce. And our biggest thingy now is that we actually export that to Italy.
This is superb news. So yeah, I will definitely offer you something up. So, Gary, in terms of how would you encourage our listeners and viewers to support local business better?
My one might be a little bit more broad, I suppose. For me, it's about get the word out. Get the word out. The energy. If there are people who won't be interested in buying my book, however, they might be interested in the ideas of them. And so to say to other people, have you heard about Thinking Bigger? Share the posts, like a post, comment on a post. Those things make so much of a difference on social media. Every time someone makes a comment, then someone else will see it. Every time someone likes a post, someone else will see it. And so that energy, that positivity is really what will grow things. I don't mind if I don't sell books to everyone, because I know they're not going to reach everyone. They're not for everyone. But getting that message out there, because they might tell someone who's also trying to make a book that wants to, and this is how I've met so many of my authors. They've heard about Thinking Bigger. They've come to me because they wanted to write a children's book. So I'm helping them. I'm coaching them through it as well, or publishing them. As I said, just growing that energy. If you don't want to buy a product, and it's not just my business, any business. If you've got a friend who runs a car mechanics, share their posts. If you don't want to get your car fixed, someone else might, and that's how it works. That really is how it all works. You'll post, you'll share it, and the person who needs to see it will find it. There is someone out there looking for my books, and they're not finding it because it's not being shared with them. And this, where social media comes into play, then that's one of the challenges we have as well. We all have to use social media. We can't stand it, but we have to use it. But it's, again, unless you're going to pay to boost your posts, then you're hoping that the algorithms will support you. What we can really hope for more is that your friends and family will support you. And there are people out there who will actually share that message and get your message out there. If you know a teacher, tell them about my books. If you know a school, if you've got children, tell them, see if they'd be interested in it. Even if you're a business owner, think about these books, because as I said, they're transforming people within business as well. If the product that you see isn't for you, but you like what they're doing and you see the positivity in it, share it, because someone else will see it.
That's brilliant, Gary. Thank you for that advice. And Ben, I'm going to give you the last word to you as a local council, encouraging our listeners, viewers, and the people in your ward to do more to support local businesses. What would you say in a closing summary?
Well, I've always had one of my main key points that I've banged on about to residents, unfortunately for them, from even before I was first elected, is this notion of community. Now, people raise issues, planning issues and licensing issues and things like that. But such an important part of our community is the positives, which is the small businesses. And so I would really say to residents, get online, take a walk down to the high street and have a look at these small businesses. Talk to the people that are running the small businesses, understand a little bit more about what they're doing. There seems to be a real ennui sort of from consumers. There's a lack of knowledge of some of the amazing things we have in the city. I will be the first to admit I wasn't aware of Gary, but I'm hugely impressed with his business. As well as being obsessed with local produce and things like that, I'm an absolute. I like to devour the written word. It's a real escape for me, and to have a self-publishing author in the city is just magical. I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. And again, I would encourage people to look into it. Christmas is coming up. What a brilliant gift for people. Something local, something absolutely unique that they may not be able to get anywhere else, and to be able to say, well, do you know what? This is from my city. This is from someone I know. You can't. It's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. And look into the local businesses in Portsmouth. It doesn't take a lot on the internet to find some of these things. For an example, I'll give you an example. When I raised my motion at full council, I talked about the grazing herds that are on Farmington Marshes, which are one of the last salt marsh grazing herds in the country. Now, I was one of the only councillors who had even heard of it. People may have seen the cattle grazing, but they didn't know anything about it. And it's some of the best beef you can buy locally. Is absolutely, because of the unique diet that they have, it's absolutely wonderful. So therefore, we need to scratch the surface of our communities and see what we've got going there. You've got small cafes, you've got, in my area, you've got Astor's, which is absolutely one brilliant butcher. We always get our Christmas meat from there. We've got Beckeries, which is a fantastic local bakery that just does the most heavenly cakes and pastries and things like that, which I often partake in, as you can tell from my fantastic physique. We've got small with places like the Compass Rose in Anchorage Park, Cockner Kitchen, small cafe, things like that. There are so many places, and I know it's difficult in these times to find the money to maybe go out for a meal and things like that. But you can still make contact with these local businesses. And as I said, we're coming up to Christmas. What an amazing gift to give to someone, something unique, something local, and something that's going to make a massive difference to fellow Pomponians.
Thank you, Ben. I think that's a perfect place for us to leave it. Thank you ever to all of our guests for our contributions this evening. And you've been listening to the Pompey Politics podcast. I've been Ian Tiny Morris.
And our guests have been David and Jane Mugridge from Yarty Cordials, Gary Fyles from Thinking Bigger Limited, and Councillor Ben Swann from Cllr Ward. So thank you very much, everybody. I've been Simon Sainsbury. Join us next week at 6:27, where we'll be playing a recorded interview from someone from Portsmouth Pride and talking about World AIDS Day. So don't forget to join us then. And then the week after, on the 8th, we have a show. We're going to go back to Havant. We're going to go a bit eastwards and find out how things are going on the council in Havant. So don't forget to join us there, and do remember to like, follow, subscribe, etc., wherever you absorb your podcasts, and we'll see you there. But thank you very much. See you next week. Don't forget to like, follow and comment on Facebook, or comment and subscribe on YouTube. Find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, X, YouTube, Threads, LinkedIn.